How to paint the Hulk from Marvel Zombies Zombicide. Grab a hobby knife and take care of the mold line across his pectorials. There's one on the inside of his ankle. It goes along his pants, which is like a seam line, so that's okay. And then there's one on each side of his toes, under the rocks, and it goes down to the base. I got rid of that. And that's pretty much it. So just grab your hobby knife, and you can use the blade side or a fan favorite. Use the back side right here. If you turn it on an angle, this flat part becomes very sharp, and it's perfect for scraping mold lines. Next, just take a ball of blue tack, put it on a base like this with no miniature on it, and just stick it down. You can hold a miniature like this, and so that way you can still prime and spray every last square centimeter of the miniature, including the base of the rim. And if you don't have one of these Citadel paint holders or some other brand of paint holder, you can simply use what I used for a long time. This is an Old Spice bottle. Instead of putting the miniature on this base, you just simply blue tack the miniature to the top of this, and it's an all-in-one. Here's what that looks like if you do it this way. See, not going anywhere. Quick side note, I do prefer these for smaller miniatures where the miniature does not exceed the circumference or diameter of the bottle, because then when I'm painting, I can put it on its side like this and kind of roll it as I paint things, which is real nice. But with a bigger miniature like Hulk, what I like to do is I can put it like this and twist it as I paint. And I know he's not going to touch the ground at any point. So that's why I use this one sometimes, and that's why I use this one sometimes. Oh, also with the spice bottles, another handy tip, fill it with something heavy like rocks or sand. It's time to grab your primers. I'm going to use these ones from Rust-Oleum and Home Depot. I got these at Home Depot. You can get them from any other big box store. I'm going to do black first, and then gray from the kind of 45-degree angle. And then I will probably do some white highlights. Shake them very well. Otherwise, you'll have a bad spray job. When I say shake well, I mean like for 2 minutes. Like a minute or two, easily. Make sure to use protection. Now you simply take the miniature and the spray paint and you start spraying. Not inside though, outside. There's no wind when you're doing this, especially if you're filming and you might get the phone with paint. You just want to do quick bursts and you want to move it quickly. Trying to get all the areas with paint, double check. Didn't get any from the top yet. All right. Now he's all nice and glistening and black, and we will add the gray in a second. Some problem areas I did find. At the bottom of his feet, between the steel beam and his foot, there was a gray patch. Also between the bottom, it's kind of hard to see, but right there at the bottom of his left foot on camera, I believe, there's 2 Iron Man gauntlets. There's also a nice green patch between there. Also between his shoulder blade and his chin was a nice green patch. It was hard to get paint in there. And then on the backside, along the steel beam, see how it's curved? And there's actually a lip. The whole inside of the curve on one edge was all green. So I just do some really quick spot paints on that. You have to do on those little spot paints is just like a little tiny, I'm not gonna do any more because he's already got enough, but we're just really quick, short bursts. You don't even press it down all the way, you just press it down just a tiny bit to get a little bit of paint out. And that way you don't flood the miniature and you don't wash out the details, because you want to see all those nice details, especially on the later steps. You'll see why. So the next part with the gray is a little crucial. There's a lot of different schools of thought, but with this project, what I like to do is I will do a little bit top down and then a little bit about 45 degrees like this. Do not move the paint can down like this and upside down and stuff, because then you can mess up the paint job. So you keep the paint about, you know, like this or like this. And then you simply move the miniature. So right here, I'm at a 45-degree angle between the Hulk and the paint. And here I'm at a 90-degree angle. And then so also since the Hulk and the Marvel Zombies takes place mostly in the city, especially in the game, I'm gonna do the 45-degree angle and I'm gonna spin it all the way around. So that way, no matter what angle the viewer is looking at it, like me, the viewer, or you, the viewer, it will look like there's light coming from above. I'm kind of assuming that it's about noon where the sun's right up in the sky. But even if it wasn't, he's in a city and there's lots of light bouncing around building to building. So it's pretty much all gonna be lit up pretty nicely. So there's not gonna be that many deep shadows, except for like in the really dark recesses, like deep inside the base, under his armpits and stuff. That's where I'll leave it blackest. And the rest will just be mostly gray. and then I'll highlight up with some white in a minute. All right, so here's how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start with the 45. Just real light, not too much. And then I'll go with the 90, and I'm doing this kind of a motion right here, and that way it's nice and even, and that way you don't get too much. So now, as you see, if you look at it from this angle, it looks pretty boring, pretty gray. This angle looks a little more interesting. I hope it shows up on camera. It looks a little more interesting. You can see some of the black, and then when you hold it upside down, you can see the dark shadows underneath the areas. Like, especially look at his abs. Boring, mostly. Awesome looking. So you can see the gradient. The zenith, this is called zenithal highlighting. Zenith meaning like the sun coming down, and highlighting, so you can leave the bottom black, the middle gray, and then the top will be more white. And you'll see more in a second here. A quick little pro tip: when you're done with painting, spray painting the miniature, I like to leave the spray cans open with the caps up, the mask open on that, instead of like this. This way the chemical and the glove inside out. And the reason I do this is because the paint is still wet on the glove, and the chemicals can now release from the caps and the actual paint can, and they will dissipate. Now I'm gonna use some Army Painter Speed Paint Orc Skin Color. All right, there he is. He's still wet and drying, so I'm gonna leave him like this. If you think he looks way too bright green, I agree, but we're gonna fix that later on. Don't you worry. No matter what you paint, always remember, you can always paint over your mistakes, or you can always paint over what you don't like. You can always alter it until you love it. All right, I went ahead and cleaned up his pants a bit. There was some parts where the green spilled over, and I just took a wet brush, like even right there, you can see. I took a wet brush and I just kind of rubbed it, and I got the speed paint to rub off. It's pretty handy little feature with the speed paint. I also painted his hair a pure black, and we can highlight that up a little bit later if we want. And now I'm gonna put on the Hive Dweller Purple from Army Painter Speed Paints on his pants. Purple pants are done. Time to paint the beam back here, Slaughter Red. Okay, now we're gonna paint the Iron Fist cowl and bands with Army Painter's Zealot Yellow. So, perfect example of my last tip. I do not like how this actually came out with the Zealot Yellow speed paint. So I'm gonna use Army Painter's standard paint, Moon Dust, and I'm gonna repaint it because it's gotta be a nice bright yellow. And so we're gonna start with that bright, and then we will be able to put a wash and dirty it down a little bit. All right, now I'm gonna work on painting all his little boils and zombie, plague skin. And I'm gonna use the Army Painter Zombie Skin. It's basically a lightish brown. It's very similar to Banshee Brown from Army Painter. And yeah. All right, so I put a little bit of dead black inside the gauntlet and the helm over here, so that way it looks like it is see-through, or empty, I should say. And then this beam back here, I did not like how dark it came out, so I am gonna dry brush it with some Model Color Vallejo Scarlet. Now I've got the red beam in the back, the I-beam. I got it dry brushed up. I actually love how it came out. Not too dark, not too light. And now I am actually going to use some Disgusting Slime from Army Painter to get his skin to look more like the photograph. It is looking a little way too green and alive, so we need it dead and yellow. Okay, this is where I'm at with it right now. Before I do my wash, I just wanted you guys to see the progress. Yep, Jagger. All right, now if I was gonna do this all over again, I would do the green skin first and then do the Poisonous Cloud wall dry brush, which I actually ended up doing a wet brush because the paint was not very good. It's not very good medium as far as what's inside of it. It's very liquidy, so I couldn't really dry brush with it. But I'll do the green skin and then the poisonous, and then I'll do the rest. That's the only thing I would change. And then you should be really careful not to get any purple on the skin. And after just 6 hours, he's complete. With just some simple techniques, some patience, and a little bit of fun, you can make this yourself. Hulk smash, get her done. Okay, so I made some minor last minute changes. Check them out. Tell me what you think, if you like it better, if you like it worse, if you haven't noticed.
blood on his jeans, blood on the I-beam, and most importantly, blood on his knuckles. I'm thinking about putting blood on his teeth as well, like he just devoured somebody, and putting on his chest, but I'm not sure yet. Let me know.